And yeah, we're getting out there and starting to get up. And Danny is in LA today.
Yeah.
LA.
Got
That's
something I can't
exciting.
talk about
It
yet.
was something you can't talk about, but I can't wait to talk about it because it's pretty exciting stuff. I am, of course, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and we're excited to talk today and just talk today because we've got all kinds of stuff. I think I'm going to let Danny take it away for right now and where we're going.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, so I had some questions from the audience just wanting to know a little bit more about us personally. Like they understand that we're coaches, that we've been in business for multiple decades. Um, but they were just asking some other questions. So I thought it would be fun to just have a conversation today, Paul. Getting to know each other better, as well as letting the audience get to know us too. I know that you have lived in many different places throughout your life. I find that very strong business people seem to travel quite a bit because business is everywhere, right? And I know that I've also have lived in some pretty interesting places and have some interesting stories that I may let out of the bag. So let's start off there. Like where has been your favorite place that you've lived and why?
Wow. So I'll have to give some basis for this information that I'm about to dump out because I actually have no kiddingly traveled all over the place. I've lived in well, Michigan, of course, and then Detroit, Denver, Dallas, New Orleans, Portland, Maine, Fort Collins, Colorado. Um, let me see. Is there anything else? No, kind of. And now in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's kind of interesting, actually, that you bring this up because I actually, when I got out of the Navy, I went to school at Lake Superior State University, and I was assistant marketing director at Kewadin Casinos in Sault Ste. Marie while I was going to school. So I was carrying 17 credits and a full time marketing job. And I had a guy, and it's interesting. I was on a podcast this morning and had to tell this exact story. So this is like repetitive.
That's funny.
But I had a guy here from Minnesota come out, and they did these skylights, and they were just about. I was you know marketing, never been in sales, and he's like, we're starting up this new company, and we're going to sell ATM machines. Now, this is prior to the ATM machines being on the in convenience stores and
Hmm.
that area. So I was like one of the very first guys out there selling ATM machines into convenience stores for the convenience of being able to pull money at the store. So I signed on with him, came out to Little Canada, Minnesota. I've gone full circle here.
Hmm.
Little Canada, and then I opened up Dallas, New Orleans for them, and then came back up to Chicago, where I decided, after doing some recruiting, decided that I wanted to be in the telecom industry, and that's where I jumped into the telecom industry. So I went to Chicago and then worked for Lucent Technologies for a while, and then I went out to Colorado, and then I got hired by another startup company to run the East Coast and eastern half of Canada. So I ended up moving to Portland, Maine, and did that. Then came back to Michigan, opened my own couple of companies in Michigan, consulting firms. And then I ended up getting an offer from one of my clients I couldn't refuse. And they asked me to move back to Minneapolis. So I did like full circle. I've been here for about 7 years since. So, like I said, there's a lot of basis for this decision. So my favorite place in all was Colorado. Now, this has a lot to do with the fact that I race downhill skiing and I love skiing and I love golf. And the great thing about Colorado was in the middle of the wintertime, you get a big snowstorm come in, you go ski on Saturday, come back to Fort Collins and golf on Sunday. So it's kind of like living near Tahoe, right? It was
Yeah.
was awesome. So to that point, I actually mentioned this to you just before the call that we are looking at moving back out to not Colorado, but Montana. I love the outdoors, the trees. I used to have horses when I lived in Colorado. So we're kind of thinking about, we're not even thinking about it. We've agreed to do it,
Mhm.
um, to kind of get our stuff wrapped up and go to Montana. So I'm excited.
That's exciting. Is there a time frame on that?
So it's going to be kind of a slow move because my wife is gainfully employed with a major corporation here in
Mhm,
Minneapolis. So we're gonna kind of split.
mhm.
She's got to spend some time here, and but the home base will be out there, and so the dogs and everybody will kind of move out there, and she'll spend her weeks here and then fly back out on the weekends.
Right,
So
right.
we're very excited about it,
Very
and
cool.
and
Congratulations.
interesting you asked that because that's what I've been thinking about for probably 2.5 years is getting back to the mountains.
Mm,
I miss them.
yeah.
So yeah. So
Yeah,
how about you?
I am a water person. I mean, I definitely love the mountains as well, but I find that my soul is much calmer when I'm around water, and specifically, it's mostly been the ocean. But I have lived in the mountains in Oregon growing up. I've lived in Washington, San Diego, Marina Del Rey. I lived right on the
Mhm.
beach and became a little lazy, not gonna lie, because the sunsets were just amazing. And so 4 o'clock rolls around. I'm like, I'm just gonna pour myself a glass of wine, watch the sunset. So, it was absolutely beautiful. I've also lived in Florida, and uh, the most interesting place that I lived and I loved for a while was the Caribbean. I lived in St. Martin.
Nice.
I actually decided to take a break from corporate America, and I bought a nightclub out there.
Oh, the stories
Yeah.
are popping out now. I didn't know that.
Right, and it was beautiful. Like, I remember when the people who owned the club, when we went down there to do our research, like, took us to all the hot spots and took us to the different beaches, and beaches you could only get to by, by being on the
Scooters?
not scooters, water things.
Oh, jet skis.
Thank you. Woof.
Ha.
And yeah, on the jet skis, and I was like looking around, sitting in the water that is just like this color blue, and like, oh my gosh, I could live here. I could own a club here. I could work here. Yes, sign me up. So that was 15 months of a very interesting time. Loved it, yet also grew to not love it because it was an island. And so, like, let's say my ice machine went down. I would call and they would say, "Oh, yeah, no, we're not going to come. There's too much traffic." What? But I own a nightclub. And yeah, and then the story gets even more interesting, where I was actually then not allowed to go back to that country for 3 years because I was kicked out for working too hard. So I was kind of set up and all of that. So I have a bad taste in my mouth, but loved that I had that adventure, and actually have a draft of a book written that I've just been a little too shy to put it out there. So it's on my list to go back, read it again, because that's been quite a few years, and then release the book. So
Wow.
um, and right now I'm in Washington, and I'm in the suburbs of Washington. I'm with my sister, spending quality time with my nephews and my mom and my sisters, and it's great. Yet my soul misses the water
I
immensely.
I completely get it. I've said this for years. I've either got to be in the water or in the mountains, and right now I'm in the middle. I'm just not there.
Yeah.
But I also lived in Pensacola, Florida,
Hmm.
back in the Navy. I actually bartended. Speaking of bars, at the 1800 Club in Bermuda, Hamilton, Bermuda. So
Yeah,
I've spent
okay.
quite a bit of time there. And it's kind of funny because as you're going through that machination of trying to figure out what your next move is going to be,
Yeah.
we did a trip to Jamaica
Mm,
this last, not more than 6 months ago. And I spent time looking at Jamaica like, hey, the cost of moving here isn't too bad.
mhm.
And cost of labor is not too bad. And we could really kind of build that dream house right on the mountainside overlooking the water. Wow,
Yeah.
that's not too bad. But then you start getting into the logistics of it.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes. Yes.
the how does the island operate? How does, and the number one thing that popped in our heads is like healthcare,
Mm.
right? It's like
Mhm.
we're getting old.
Mhm.
So we're like, healthcare is now, it never was before. In all of my moves, everywhere I've ever gone, the
Mhm.
last thing, in fact, it never even came to mind, was healthcare. I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm healthy, I'm indestructible. And then my wife's like, no, you're not.
Uh, right.
And so all of a sudden, a lot of the places that we were thinking building or moving to when it came to islands, and the healthcare question started popping up. And every time we do that research, and be like, nope,
Mm.
this isn't going to work for us
Mhm.
because um, one of the big things that we enjoy in the United States, even though it's expensive and even though it's private, and it is healthcare. If you have a plan, you are covered, and more to the effect of the availability of really excellent healthcare is there.
Mhm.
So kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So
Well, in the Caribbean, I was surprised because the healthcare was actually pretty good. Like, at least I mean, I was much, much younger at the time too, so
it
maybe
changes
that's
the
the
way you
difference.
think about it.
Yeah, but I'm like, I could just go into a clinic and I could, talk with a doctor and they would be able to help me. And compared to, I felt like in the States, it was always like a couple weeks out or whatever. So, but that was a
Yeah,
very long
when
time
you
ago. That
start
was probably
researching
15 years
cardiac
ago.
units, okay,
Oh,
how good is the cardiac or unit here? Oh, wait a minute,
yeah.
no, the only way you're going to get taken care of is you got to take a helicopter from Jamaica to Miami, and
Oof.
then
Yeah,
that's
that's a ride.
so all of a sudden the insurance company goes $25,000 transportation fee, huh? Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it does get deeper where you're thinking immediate care
Mhm.
for an accident or
Mhm.
an incident, and then all of a sudden you start thinking about long-term things like cardiac care,
Yeah.
cancer care, all the deeper things that can happen to the elderly body,
Mhm.
just from wear and tear. And trust me, I've got a lot of wear and tear. Um, you kind of got to think
Well, yeah,
about
downhill skiing, all of that for sure.
jumping out of stuff, jumping on stuff, jumping into stuff. 18 broken bones
Ooh.
over the career. I guarantee I'm going to be long-term arthritic care and that type of stuff. So yeah, I'm probably going to one day I'll walk down the street and then just suddenly fall apart. It's kind of like one of those.
No, no. But I agree, Jamaica, I've been to Jamaica many times. I was actually married in Jamaica, and I fell in love with the island. But yeah, logistics is difficult there for sure. So, and then I did look at Key West. I heard you say before in another conversation that Key West was potentially a place where you wanted to end up. Um, Yeah, Florida is just a little too humid for me. Just a little. Them mosquitoes love this girl. No.
Yeah, my wife has the same thing going down. The
Mhm.
mosquitoes are it's funny, we'll go outside on the deck and the mosquitoes will come out and I won't get touched.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
just like, I'm going in. I'm like, what's wrong? She goes, the mosquitoes. I'm like, what mosquitoes?
Yeah.
But she gets hammered up. It kind of comes to mind as we're talking about moving and going around in favorite places, business people specifically
Mm.
hopefully target where they're going to move for some business benefit. You moved up to Washington. I'm getting ready. And like I said, we just made the decision last night, and like I told you before the call, now I'm in gear. Now I've got to make my plan to get things going.
Mhm,
So it's kind of interesting as I think about it. Is what's the first things you do when you move?
mhm,
And you're entrepreneur or solopreneur,
mhm,
and
mhm.
I'm already starting to do it. So might as well talk about it because
Yeah.
I literally, even before we started this on the call, I said, first thing I asked you is like, who do you know in Montana?
Mhm,
Right.
mhm,
I need to get out there. I need to start creating relationships, start getting business routes in, see what's hot in the area that I want to be in,
mhm,
who the shakers and movers are, and start getting to know some people. And
mhm,
that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm literally targeting over to the Bozeman area, and I'm going to start creating relationships out there. I'm sure I know people in my network out there, and start building the basis to start business out there and help entrepreneurs in the Bozeman, Montana area directly. So I'm face to face and start helping those. So as you start moving into new areas, you kind of have to feel it out and
mhm,
see what the hot topic is out there
mhm.
and start creating relationships.
Right,
What do
right.
you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Start, getting on some lists where you're getting news, right? To just know what's going on in the area in general. To see what associations are out there that you can join to be a part of. One of the things that I loved that Grant Cardone brought back into my life was letter writing, and just, or I should say, note writing, right? The actual in the snail mail, signing it like, hey, hi, my name is Dani Apgar. I'm a business coach. I'm new to the area and just wanted to introduce myself. I'll be stopping by, over the course of a couple weeks, and would love to buy you a cup of coffee. Just something simple, because people like to get stuff in the mail and they're like, oh, and then usually that keeps top of mind. Like, oh, she wrote a note, not like generated an email that just goes into spam or whatever, right?
Yep.
You got to follow up with email too, which I need a good email system, but that's for another time. Uh, Go ahead. Yes.
To that point, I have a client of mine who today is and he's going after enterprise clients. So he's trying to set himself aside, and so he does FedEx.
Mhm.
He takes the $15 or the twenty
Oh.
bucks to put a FedEx package together with a note in it
Hmm.
because he gets signature for delivery. So,
Yeah.
and it really does set him apart. He has got like an 80%, you know,
Mm.
callback rate on that FedEx. So I found that interesting. Now, of
Is
course,
he
his
putting
client.
other goodies inside of that?
I'm not exactly sure. I didn't ask him. I was kind of set back by taking the time to put together a FedEx, and
Hmm.
that's very. But when you think about the average deal size that he's at, it
Yeah.
absolutely makes sense. It's something we used to do in enterprise when we wanted to get something through.
Hmm.
But you have to be careful with that when you're going at enterprise. There's compliance issues and all that type of stuff. So,
Yeah.
the
Sometimes you can't
extra
buy
goodies
gifts. Yes.
inside, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
you can't really go there. They tend to, oh God, now I got to pay the money to ship it back. So
Hmm.
you just made somebody some more work, but it's a
Right.
good idea. It's a great
Right.
way to separate yourself when you're going after someone or something very specific.
Yeah,
I
and also just thank you notes after you meet with
Oh yeah,
people. I mean, I've always done that in sales. Just after I meet with somebody, just send them a thank you note, and they're like, "Oh, again, it's just a way to get in front of somebody again, while also it's valid. It's truthful. Like, thank you. Time is valuable, so thank you for taking your time to allow me to chat with you." So,
yeah, absolutely. So it's also interesting as we're talking about this
mhm,
that the steps I'm kind of taking to move to Montana, are the same steps I would take if I was opening a business from scratch.
Hmm.
It is essentially the same thing. So if I had a new business here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the first thing I would do was exactly what we talked about, which is get on lists,
Mhm.
go get in front of people, go to the Chamber of Commerce, go to the library to do your homework on the businesses, market research, start finding business meetups where you can start meeting other people and start getting whatever it is that you offer out and start getting those conversations and relationships mixed. And, that's the old school, right?
Mhm.
We've been doing that for 30 years.
Mhm.
And then adding the social media and all that stuff on top of it and talking about where you're going to move and what you're going to do and all that good kind of stuff and make it to be omnipresent in front of the target market, target area, target geography, all those
Mhm.
things.
Mhm. Yeah, it's almost like it it's a launch, right? So be able to know what you're going to do, and so it's almost like you're already living there before you even moved there, right? So that's great.
You just reminded me of something. I did something totally horrible when I moved to Minnesota. It was so I um, oh, two podcasts. I got to remember what I said on which podcast. Okay, so I told a story this morning on a different podcast that was kind of wrapped around um, the things that you can do or kind of my life story. And when I first moved to Minnesota, not the first time, but the first time, the second time, ha, um, it was kind of funny because I did the same thing. I started creating relationships and I identified a house that we wanted to rent because I didn't want to buy first moving here. So I came out and stayed at the hotel for 3-4 weeks and got to know the area because yes, I lived in Minnesota before, but or Minneapolis, St. Paul before, but Minneapolis, St. Paul was a lot different 30 years ago when I first got started. So
Mm,
the where I live right now was farmland, and
mhm,
now it's all filled in.
mhm,
So I came out, and this is like 10 years ago, and I came out and started looking at houses. I looked at all the areas, drove around, Lake Minnetonka, Eden Prairie, and all these other areas, and kind of identified that Woodbury would be the place. And so I contacted a couple of real estate guys for house rentals. And so I found this one place in Woodbury. And so I go there with my son and we go look at the house. And the neighbor across the street was, out walking his kid to school to go pick
mhm,
up his other kids. And I come flying out of the driveway and
mm,
put out my hand and freaked him right out.
mhm.
So he's like, and I asked him about the area, asked him about the jobs, asked him about this. He's like, I gotta go get my kid. I gotta go get my kid. But he's one of my closest friends today.
Mm,
He comes. I live on the complete opposite side of the St. Paul Minneapolis Metroplex. I'm over on Lake Minnetonka, not in Woodbury anymore. And they come over, once a month or
mm,
whatever. But it was like I scared the crap out of him. It was the funniest thing. So one thing he talks about at parties all the time is how we met because I was like, I need to
mm.
talk to you. I need
Yeah.
I need to know. But at the end of the day, that's how you get to know the area, and you have to talk to people and kind of really get into what the area is all about, both for business and just personal. Like I want to know
Mhm,
about the schools, I want to know about the healthcare. 3M was the biggest
mm, mhm,
building in the area. Almost everybody worked for 3M in Woodbury, and it
mhm,
was kind of funky. And literally less than a year later, 3M became one of my biggest clients,
mm,
and it was kind of like that whole entrance in Best Buy.
mm,
Best Buy. The next door neighbor was a C level at Best Buy, and it's like
mhm,
all of a sudden, I dived myself because I really strategically picked where I was going to live. I put myself right in with the people that I really wanted to talk to because that's what I was selling at the time was enterprise software.
Mhm.
So it was I had access. You know,
Mhm.
I scared the CEO at another company on a vacation because he told me he was, and I had a deal within 6 months with them because I was like, "You, who are you? You're CEO of what? Okay, here's what I
Nice.
do." So I mean, it's contact sport, right?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because it brought back a memory of when I met a CEO of a company, and every time I would see him, I'm like, "Hi," and he literally one time was like, "Danny, your presence is a lot for me," and that's not the first time that I've heard that either. So I actually since then have tried to tone down myself, but I think over the years now I get to lift myself back up again. But I was like, why? I'm just happy to see ya, you know? But it was like, "Oh, Danny, your presence is a bit much for me." "Okay, sorry."
Yeah, that's activation. So very cool. So yeah, I think that's really cool. What else? Where else have you lived and
Mhm.
done that? What was your favorite? I still haven't gotten your
Oh,
favorite place
yeah.
yet.
Marina Del Rey was definitely my favorite, just living right there on the ocean, um, floor to ceiling windows, just magnificent, and 20 minutes to the airport. So I was able to fly all over the world and come back to my home on the beach. So that was just as far as like home and just felt ooey gooey, you know?
Mm.
That was definitely my favorite. I would still say that just San Diego in general is my home. It just feels right. That's where most of my friends are. It's kind of just where I grew up, so I feel a little bit more comfortable there. Um,
So where is Marina Del Rey exactly?
it's south of Los Angeles, so
Okay.
there is Santa Monica,
Hmm.
Venice Beach, and then Marina Del Rey,
Yeah, my
and then
wife lived
Manhattan
in
Beach.
wife lived in Long Beach, and
Mhm, mhm.
I've been to Capistrano.
Oh yeah, mhm,
I've been
mhm,
up into the desert area up above that,
mhm.
to the east of LA. I have
Nice.
not been to East LA. I've been east of LA.
Okay, yeah,
So, okay,
yeah, 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 yeah. East LA, yeah, you know.
yeah,
There's a good airport there. That's I was able to just walk on the airport and then go. That was awesome. But other than that, not for me.
that's John Wayne, right? Is John Wayne? No,
No, it's not
no.
John Wayne. It was Spirit or not Spirit. It was a small little just jet airline that you could just
Oh,
walk on and go. So a private airline. But
a
um
private airline.
yeah, I used to go back and forth from to San Francisco from Marina Del Rey on it. It was grand. It was very cool.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Must be nice to be you.
Yeah, it does. Mhm, mhm. Yes. And now it's all about, just to be candid and authentic here, now it's about building the future me. I feel like I have a lot of greatness in my past and I haven't felt like I have a lot of greatness right now. And so I'm trying to pull that all back together. Um, and come out Danny Apgar single, not married, not all that stuff. So just kind of that
Danny Apgar, the one. So
the
the
one and
one,
only.
right? So interesting question, and of course, tell me to shut up if you need to.
No,
But
I'm an open book.
what makes you feel less than you were?
Well, I feel I just look back and I go, gosh, I did a lot of really cool things,
Hmm.
and like, wow, I don't know, I helped a lot of people. I don't know. I just feel like everything is just. I just look back, and I feel over the past couple years through COVID, through divorce, through COVID, that I haven't just I haven't got that momentum that I once had, and yeah, so it's just been I my goal and desire is to help. as many people on this earth as I possibly can while I'm here. Um, yeah, and so it's just a matter of stepping into that, I guess. But that's also, the reason why I share this candidly is because I know there's many other people out there, right?
Oh, absolutely.
That feel the same way, that wonder, especially those that have gone through divorce, that are middle aged like myself. It's you start to really feel your mortality more. Um, I haven't looked into into the healthcare
Thank you.
like you have. No, but like, like, do they have a cardiac, hospital? Oh crap! I never even thought about that stuff. Okay. Um, uh, but yeah, so it's like, okay, how I feel like I once was great, and I want to be great again. And I don't know if
Yeah.
that's ego driven or what, but it's just I felt
So
alive. Maybe
no,
that's what I
I
meant.
get it. So I oddly enough, I'm this podcast and the last one are going to mirror each other apparently,
Isn't
but
that weird how that happens?
yeah, we get on conversations and it just kind of goes. You know, I've been through the same thing, right? So I have a fabulous partner now, and and I said this morning, I said, after all I've been through and everything that I've recovered from, because I've lost a ton and I've gained it all back plus every time,
Mhm,
and there will be no more times. Um, I look at life now like a staircase, and I just, I'm always looking up at the next step in that staircase. And a couple of times I tripped and fell down.
mhm,
And then I had to get back on the bottom step and walk back up the staircase. And
mhm,
now I'm higher on the staircase than I've ever been.
mhm.
But the thing is, I don't look back down the staircase,
Right,
because if I look back down the staircase, what's going to happen? I'm going to trip and fall.
right.
And I literally have that view in my mind as I go, because it has been a ride. I've um, I've come across things I never thought I would ever come across,
Mhm,
and I've been cracked down just like you
mhm,
in the same exact way,
mhm,
and you lose your sense of self,
mhm.
and you lose, was I real? When you go through, I think they call it imposter syndrome, because you've
Yeah.
been burnt so many times doing what you're going to do. You don't really know anymore if you knew what you were doing. And now you
Mhm,
feel like you're an imposter and you're just
mhm,
trying to act like it again. And there is a point that you will look in the mirror and you will realize that you are more than you ever were,
mhm,
because of what you have gone through and
mhm,
powered through.
mhm,
And I take celebrations not in the loss, but in the fact that I got back up and got back on that bottom step and climbed again. And I know at the end of the day,
mhm,
the end of life, that nothing ever knocked me down
mhm,
permanently. It
mhm.
was, I always got back up and just kept going.
Yep.
And you are going to look back at this moment in this podcast
Mhm,
in 3 years and 5 years and 10 years and go, God, I was more than I had ever been at that podcast.
mhm.
And I didn't lose any of myself. I just gained.
Yeah.
And that's really, really, once you can, and it takes, I talk about a lot about, there was a change in my life at one point, and that point was I sat down and I realized that everything that ever happened to me was my fault,
Oh, sure, yeah.
right? And that gave me the power to change it all.
Mhm,
And I think that's where I sit today. Just like you're
mhm,
taking the power. You've taken the power,
mhm.
and now you're rocking and rolling. I know what you're doing,
Yeah,
and you're kicking butt, and
right.
that's it. That's that's where you go, and you keep just looking up that staircase, making the next step, and making the next step, and don't look down.
Right.
Don't look down and trip. Don't look down and trip.
Agreed.
Don't bring all the stuff that got you to fall last time to
Hmm.
fall again, because that those things and people are irrelevant to who you are.
Right. Yeah, I agree. In fact, you had posted something on social media that I was like, "Oh my gosh, he stepped into my world." So believe the power of social media, y'all. Um, uh, yeah, it's been. I've had a. We both have had a very interesting couple of weeks, and uh, but yes, it was like just keep looking forward and keep getting up. Um, and I have. I'm very proud of that fact. Like I take self accountability, and I know my life is exactly the way it is because um, because I did. It's all on me. Everything, my failures and my successes are
Yep.
because of me. So it's not just look at the failures, but look at the successes as well, and go, okay, now move forward. So, um, yeah, I really went. I went to a mastermind. I was invited to a mastermind in Boise with Marley Jacks, and her whole thing is uh, she's wanting to change the way that we do social media and no longer be talking heads, but to actually have a bigger social impact, a true impact on the world,
Hmm.
and which of course spoke to me. And I've known Marley for quite a while now, and I felt so blessed because she was like, "Dani, your tribe is here. Come, come, just get here, and I got you." And I was like, "Wow!" And it was really great to be around other like-minded people.
Hmm.
My family is amazing. I am blessed. I love them. They are fabulous. We do not have the same mindset, just with business and stuff.
Hmm.
I am a big thinker, and I get a lot of be happy of where you are. True, right? I do want to be happy.
True.
True, I get to be happy where I am, but that doesn't. But that's just not enough for me, and it's just something they don't understand. And and that also tells me that's where I get to just be it to see it.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And God, again, podcast this morning. Um,
I didn't see it, y'all. This was not set up at all.
I think after this one, I'm going to be called on social media Mr. Repetitive. He does
Oh
the
no.
same thing on every podcast. No, one of the things we talked about this morning, and it has to do with that mindset and that tribe. Um, you hear people like Grant Cardone say your net worth is your network and all that kind of stuff, which is absolutely true. But I this morning I took it one step deeper, and I want to take it one step deeper here. You're only as good as your five best friends. Okay, and this morning we talked about um, have four of your best friends that are reaching a hand down to you, pulling you up, and then that other hand should be reaching down and pulling someone else up.
Yeah.
I equated that this morning. One of my favorite. Yeah, I'm ex Navy. I love the Marines, and one of my favorite visuals on the Marines is when they're climbing a wall,
Hmm.
and they climb up and they stand on each other's shoulders and they'll hop on each other, and there'll be five
Hmm.
Marines, and number six gets over the wall. He turns around, he hangs over the edge, and he starts pulling people up,
Hmm.
right? And that is a truth in visual to business as a whole, of you cannot do this in an abyss, and you cannot do this by yourself, and you need to find others who are not only like-minded but have like goals, who want to grow
Hmm.
and want to help each other and help other people. And
Hmm.
then you don't become a talking head, you become a community.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was kind of the point this
Yeah.
morning.
That's a great visual. That's a really good visual. I like it. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So Which now you know why all those postings on social media come out of me.
Yeah, yep, I do, I do. I love it, I love it.
So, all right, man, great conversation today. We're
Yeah,
pretty close at the end. I mean, wow. Thank you for being so sharing, I guess is the best
absolutely.
word. That's amazing. We talked a lot about, we got definitely deep into mindset, is
Mhm,
the way I would call it. What do you want to leave the audience with today? Because this was like a get to know you, but I think there were
yeah,
some good nuggets that came out there, especially around, I think, taking responsibility for yourself. I try to teach that to my kids all the
mhm,
time,
mhm,
as they're heading off and doing their own things, um, and and how much power that gives you.
mhm,
If you're blaming everybody else, it means that you're giving everyone else the power to impact your life.
mhm,
And if you're taking full responsibility for everything that happens to you, it gives you the ability to take control of it and change it. So, I
absolutely.
mean, for me, I would like that to be the biggest takeaway from me today, is just
Mhm,
that reflection on self, to understand what you're doing and how you can change everything that's going on. And to add to that, that bad times only last a short time,
that's right.
especially if you're taking control of it.
Mhm,
It's got a limited lifespan.
yeah.
So I'm going to leave off there. What do you want everyone to walk away with today?
Yeah, I want people to walk away with knowing you can start over wherever you're at. You can start over this moment, and you never fail if you never give up. Just keep getting up, keep looking up that staircase, as Paul says. And then I also really did love that the reaching back to help others, or reaching down to lift other people. That has always been a visual of mine, for forever. Like I always want to give a hand up, not a handout, but a hand up to those around me, and to be somebody who elevates. And then I also thank you, Paul, for allowing me to be a little bit more authentic today. That's also part of what the mastermind was. Everything isn't always rosy, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes on social media, people think like, oh, her life is perfect or his life is perfect. Life isn't perfect, but it is what we make it. And so keep going, keep keep getting up, keep going on them stairs.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, that's it for episode 6.
Woo.
Any closeout? Where can people find information about you, Danny? Where should they
Yeah,
go?
yeah. On Instagram at Coach Dani Apgar, it would be the best place to go.
Awesome. And you can, of course, reach me at clevelandrain.com. And there's some programs up there to help if you're looking to increase your business, or, just get things in order so that you can grow and your business can grow.
Love it.
Reach out to me. Otherwise, we'll see you next Thursday, same bat time, same bat channel, for episode 7. All right. Have a
Awesome.
great,
Thank you.
great week. Thank you.
Yes. Bye bye.